Hello, and welcome to Breaching the Boardroom, where leadership, growth, and technology come together. Each episode features straight talk conversations with industry leaders and innovators who share how they navigate a fast-moving world while keeping their businesses on track. The goal is simple: break down complex topics like AI, strategy, and technology so business leaders can make confident, informed decisions. I'm your host, Zack Moscow. Our guest today is my friend John Fox, a certified EOS implementer based right here in our shared hometown of Lexington, Kentucky. John has worked with over 50 companies in our backyard and brings an entrepreneurial background and curious spirit to his work. On a personal note, I'm an advocate for the Entrepreneurial Operating System, or EOS, and I've worked at several organizations, including right here at NetGain, that have leveraged EOS to help improve company culture, communication, and results. John, thank you so much for joining us today.
Absolutely. Thanks, Zach, for having me.
Yeah, really excited to dig into this and spread the EOS gospel, hopefully to some folks who haven't heard of it before. So, for those who are new, we'll borrow the title to the intro book. My first exposure. What the heck is EOS?
What the heck is EOS? Well, there's like the 30-second version and the 90-minute version. I'll do the 30-second version, and it's high level. It's a complete system with simple tools, really designed to help entrepreneurial leadership teams get what they want from their business. And there's a model with 6 key components, and so when I work with my teams, I'm helping them strengthen each of the 6 key components of their business, which consists of the vision component, which is getting everybody on the same page in the company, the people component, which is getting the right people in the right seats, the data component, which is about making decisions and running the business with hard facts and figures, the issues component, which is getting really good at solving issues as they arise, the process component, which is about streamlining the business and getting all the most important stuff done the right and best way every time, and then the traction component, which is all about executing well and bringing the vision down to the ground. So those are the 6 key components, and I work with my clients to help strengthen those over a journey together. And so that is a very high level what EOS is.
Are those components in order from the way that you describe them? Do you really start with a vision and that impacts component 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 down the line, or is this really more holistic? You're trying to think through all of these strategies, all of these components in concert.
Yeah, great question. The more that so in the EOS Implementer community, we have this thing called Seeing the Matrix, and the more that I do this work, the more that I help implement EOS, the more that I see the expansive interconnectivity of all the components and all the tools. So for example, in the traction component, I'm teaching my clients how to have a great meeting pulse, right? Well, the meeting pulse, we're touching on the data component. We're touching on the vision component. We're touching on the issues component. We're touching on the people component, right? All just by strengthening the traction component, we're touching in all of these other areas just by implementing that one tool. And so it's they're very interconnected. And so it's definitely not like a sequential process.
Sure. Yeah, that makes all the sense in the world. When you're first introduced to a company and you're really thinking through those high level, you're not suggesting what these goals are going to be. It's really your job to facilitate a conversation and ask questions that are going to hopefully create or find a truth or an alignment. I'm just curious, are those some questions go-to that you have that really help elucidate those goals, that alignment, when you're new to an organization and new to a group of people or an entrepreneur?
Yeah, great question. And first of all, you're totally right. I think that's one of the things that allows me to work with pretty much any industry, any type of company, is I'm really playing 3 roles with them: the teacher, facilitator, and coach. And so teaching concepts and principles to give them context for what they need to make better decisions and get what they want. Facilitating, which is asking questions and trying to get a group of 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people with their own perspectives and feelings and thoughts to get on the same page. And then the coach is where I'm helping them become their best. And I'm holding up a mirror and I'm showing them the good, the bad, and the ugly of how they're operating as a team. And so teacher, facilitator, coach, questions are a huge part of what I do because the truth is I'm not a consultant and I don't know the answer. 95% of the time, the answer is in the room among the leadership team. And my job is to help extract the wisdom that exists there. And so, the questions really vary depending on the context of the conversation. One of the most common ones, though, is what do you want? I read a book one time.
I ask myself that all the time.
Right. It's a super hard question to answer sometimes. And I read a book one time on coaching, and the guy said in the book, he's like, I can help anybody get what they want in life if they could just tell me what it is they want. And most people have a hard time just telling me what they want for various reasons. And so that's a common question. A lot of times I'm just saying, what do you think? Susan, what's your perspective? What do you think we should do? So I'm really just trying to pull things out of people. I mean, there's a slew of other questions, but it really depends on the situation.
Yeah, and I would imagine you get in scenarios where Susan and Jack, the two, co-founders in the room, maybe don't want the same thing necessarily, or answer questions very, very in very different ways, and it puts you in an interesting spot to be able to find middle ground and find that shared vision, which I think could be really fun. Could also be very, very frustrating
and uncomfortable. Yep, yeah. For sure.
So what I think, when I think about entrepreneurs, or I think about it, there's an association with startup and an association with small. Is EOS, is the right time for an organization to start to put EOS in practice and build these habits and meeting cadences and all of these components? I assume it's better to start earlier, but are there any examples of clients that you've had or companies that you've worked with that have been really, maybe operationally mature, that have come to you and really tried to rethink how they are setting goals and setting metrics and all of these components?
Yeah, that's a great question. The sweet spot for EOS is 10 to 250 employees. Okay. So it's you need to be, at least usually to work with an implementer like me, 10 employees, you're typically going to be in a position where you can afford it to work with an implementer. But also you're typically running up against some bigger hurdles that justify kind of realigning your organizational habits and putting the energy into implementing an operating system. So you're hiring more people, you're experiencing growing pains, your people are more and more confused about their roles and who they report to. The problems that you're experiencing are the same as when you had 3 people, but they have more zeros on the end. Now the impact of certain decisions and issues. And so it's just becoming more and more important for there to be a rhyme and reason behind how we're managing the day-to-day operation, how we're running this thing. And so, but also you get too big and you start to become a little bit too corporate. And so it's the entrepreneurial operating system, not the corporate operating system. And so you hit a point where you may have 500 people or 1,000 people, and the things that you might need to run that organization might be a little bit different than what EOS provides. So, and then what was the other question you asked?
I think you touched on everything that I was trying to get to there in terms of life cycle and size and fit. I think I maybe mentioned a company or a specific example of someone who.
You mentioned some companies being more mature than others.
There we go. Yeah.
And I think that's a good point. So I think there's like 2 categories of clients when I start working with them. One type of client really needs EOS to help with having an understanding of how to run a great business. Like a lot of the concepts and tools are actually relatively new to them. They haven't used or deployed things like that at all. And then the other type of company are ones that they're super smart. They've built a great business. There's truly a level of sophistication that they have achieved in how they run their business. There is a rhyme and reason, and they're just wanting to take it to the next level. They're wanting to put something in that's a more formalized operating system where everyone's using the same language, and they're just wanting to up their game with and increase and elevate something that already is pretty awesome. And so I've seen both, and I love working with both. It's just that the fundamental needs of why they're implementing EOS are a little bit different.
Sure. And I would think that would probably impact a lot of your strategy too. If you've got a business where things are really humming, you're not looking to reinvent the wheel, right? You're looking for augmentation. You're looking for, I would hope, some process improvement. Maybe I'm wrong.
So actually, it doesn't change my process at all. We go through the same exact process. It's just that the conversations around the tools and around the process look a little bit different. And I think my need for certain types of teaching may differ a little bit based on the maturity level of the client.
What's the cadence for you in getting started with an organization who's interested in implementing EOS? How often are you meeting with them? Does that cadence, I would assume it would decrease over time after you get them kind of up and running, sit in on a few meetings? But yeah, just curious about what that really looks like.
Yeah, so high level, we do have a proven process, and every client uses the same process. And so it all starts with a free 90-minute experience with the leadership team and myself. So a 90-minute meeting to kind of give an overview of how the whole thing works, for me to learn more about the organization, and really just to see if there's a fit. From there, if we both decide that there is a good fit, then we schedule our first three kind of foundational sessions: the focus day, vision building day 1, vision building day 2, and there's about a 30-day gap in between those three. And that's really about me getting the tools really integrated into the leadership team, getting them to learn, master, and really start to implement some of the foundational EOS tools. Then we go to a quarterly sort of rhythm where every 90 days we come back and I facilitate their 1-day quarterlies and 2-day annuals throughout the year. And that process is really about rolling EOS tools more out into the business so that the whole company over time is running on EOS. I'm really coaching them a lot more, helping them become their best as a leadership team. I'm teaching them some new tools that we didn't have time for in the first 3 sessions. And it's really just this journey toward mastery. And really that's what EOS, I do this for a living. I've been doing it for 6.5 years. And I'm still developing new levels of mastery with this system. And so it's a journey for all my clients as well. And so that's the quarterlies and the annuals. And then at some point, most of my clients get to a point where they say, John, I think we've got this. I think we've mastered the system enough for us to run this on our own. And we graduate them and they go do it on their own. And it's a beautiful thing. So that's the typical engagement.
Sure. So you said something in here that really piqued my interest, I think, especially as an IT guy. But you're talking about tools and getting folks started. Are we talking technological tools? Are we talking organizational tools? Like, what are those primary or fundamental early stage tools that you're working with an executive team, a leadership team, as they're at the beginning of this journey?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I would categorize them, and I feel like I'm having an aha moment right now as you ask that question, but I would categorize them as thinking tools. So to lead a business, it takes coming from a place of clarity. And most of my teams, when they start the journey, they don't really have clarity. They don't have clarity on who really owns what. They don't have clarity on what the priorities are. They don't have clarity on what the vision is. They don't have clarity on what numbers matter the most. They don't have clarity on what the root causes is behind their issues. They don't have clarity. And so they don't have clarity on who fits the culture and why, right? So all of the tools that we're implementing, things like the Vision Traction Organizer, things like the People Analyzer, the scorecard, setting rocks, having a great meeting pulse, things like that are thinking tools so that people are engaging with each other and having productive conversations that keep people on the same page. So EOS is apocalypse proof. So what I mean is that you don't need this system existed before technology. Not before technology, but it existed before all the softwares out there. So like, as long as you still have a stone tablet and a rock to like carve things on, you can literally run on EOS, because it's just about thinking and having productive conversations to get people on the same page.
I will say, I think what we're using, at least internally, for tools and project management and rock management and goal setting, probably a little easier than the stone tablet. But
yeah, I would totally agree. Yeah,
point.
Yeah, no, I use them and I encourage them, but at the end of the day, those tech tools are really just tools for organizing the clarity.
It's a vehicle, right? Yeah,
exactly.
Cool. So you touched on the VTO, and I really wanted to talk about that today and how that really influences so much of what I touch and have touched in using EOS. You touched on rocks, and so I think it would be helpful to kind of walk through what that VTO is, what the core components are, and how it really shakes down all the way to weekly to-dos that are rolling up again to this VTO.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the VTO is short for the Vision Traction Organizer, and this tool is really helping to strengthen the vision component of your business. And instead of having a 40-page document that goes over this complex business plan that no one understands or ever looks at, it's 8 simple questions to get the leadership team and then the whole company on the same page with who we are, where we're going, and what our plan is to actually get there. The 3 things that most people in most companies cannot answer. And so there's 8 simple questions. The first one is, what are our core values? And so these are just the essential guiding principles that define the culture that we're trying to create, protect, and enhance in the organization. Helps us to hire better, review people more effectively, know how to reward and recognize people. We do that through the lens of our core values. The second part of the VTO is, what is our core focus? And so this is really defining the sweet spot of why do we exist as a company and what do we want to be the best in the world at? It's a filtering guide for how we say yes or no to certain opportunities and products and services. The third part is our 10-year target. So this is where we're going as a company. It's the one simple thing that we're chasing after to get everybody excited around hitting that one thing. Marketing strategy is the fourth part of the VTO, which is just getting clear on who our ideal customer is and what our message is to them to have the most impact. And then we crystallize all of that still on the vision side of the VTO with a 3-year picture, which is where we start to make the vision look and feel a little bit more tangible, more real. So we start looking at some numbers here, revenue, profit, some measurables, and then we paint a vivid picture with 5 to 15 bullet points to really bring to life what the future is going to look and feel like in 3 years. And this really just gets the leadership team kind of seeing the same future in their mind's eye. One thing I've learned is that, everything that ever is achieved actually happens twice. It first happens in the mind, and then it happens in reality. And so if everybody sees different things in the mind, then we're all over the place. And so the 3-year picture starts to crystallize that image of the future. And then it just helps us to do much more effective 1-year planning, which then goes to the traction side of the VTO. Question number 6 is, what is your 1-year plan? And so this is where we predict numbers, revenue, profit, measurables for the year. And then we set 3 to 7 annual goals that we know are going to help solve our big issues and help us get closer and closer to our 3-year picture. Then we set quarterly rocks. That's the 7th part of the VTO, which are all about prioritizing 90-day items that help us achieve our 1-year plan and solve our big challenges and issues quarter to quarter. And those help just to create focus and alignment and prioritization throughout the business. And then the last part is, what is your issues list, which is kind of a funny thing to have as your 8th question. But really, it's just, now that we have this amazing vision, like, what are the obstacles, the things that are slowing us down, holding us back, pissing us off, the ideas, the opportunities that need to get out of our head and onto paper for the leadership team to work through and solve together. And so that's like this VTO document is really the guiding light and the greater good that we're all shooting to achieve together. And so then when it comes to our weekly to-dos, like, are our to-dos solving the right issues? Are our to-dos helping us to keep our rocks on track for the quarter, right? Things like that. It all comes down to helping us execute on this vision.
I have a clarification question then.
Yeah.
I don't really know if I've seen this in practice yet, but we have a really, really large scale picture, this 10-year target, 10-year goal. And we have these core values, and these feel like static targets to me, right? Obviously the quarterly goals, the 1-year plan is going to morph and change, right? We go through, we're a year at our company, 2 years at our company, we're going to see those rocks change. We're going to see those annual goals change. Does the 10-year target ever morph? Have you seen that? Do you recommend it? Is it a bad idea to move the goalposts when that is really dictating and impacting so much of what happens further down the line?
That's a great question. Yeah, so 90-day rocks change every 90 days due to the definition. Annual goals change annually due to the definition of them. The 3-year picture, one thing to note about that's on the vision side of the VTO, not the traction side of the VTO. So the 3-year picture is not about goal setting. It's about having a clear picture of the future. And so that changes every year too. So every year in the annual, when I'm working with my clients, we take that date, the future date of the 3-year picture, and we push it back one more year, and we kind of start fresh just to make sure we always have a compelling future that's pulling us toward it. The 10-year target, on the other hand, is a little bit different, and I feel like it's a little bit up to the company to decide how they want to handle that, because I allow my teams to have anywhere from 5 to 30 years as their long range goal. Wow. So we call it the 10-year target. If it's not exactly 10 years, we change it to core target. But most of them want to keep it as long as they can. If they feel really strongly about it, they want to keep it as close as possible until they know if they hit it or not. But I've had situations where the client is just crushing it and they hit their 10-year target in 3 years. And
definitely have a good problem.
Yeah. So they have to change it. Like, we've already achieved it. We're not going to just keep it around. Like, what's the next thing that we're shooting for that we want to rally the troops around? And then another situation might be, okay, as soon as our 3-year picture date is in alignment with our 10-year target date, then what do we do with that? Do we go ahead and just create a new 10-year target, or do we allow those to, exist simultaneously at different intervals? It can be a little bit tricky, but I just ask my clients, okay, what do you want to do to best manage human energy in your business? What's going to serve you best? And then I let them make the call on how they want to handle it.
Sure. I got to tell a funny story. I was out in Napa for a friend's 40th birthday party last 2 weekends ago, and went to a winery which will remain nameless. But the guy who was leading the tour told our group about the founder of this winery's 200-year business plan. Now,
okay.
If you 2 weeks ago, if we would have done this podcast and you would have said a 30-year target, I would have been like, that seems pretty crazy. But in the context of a 200-year business plan, no, it sounds very, very reasonable to me.
How come? Tell me more.
What's that?
Tell me more.
200 years, I just can't imagine being able to forecast. I can't forecast the next year of my life, much less a 200-year business plan. 30 years, maybe this is a product of the tech world, which shifts so much. And I know that our priorities and even functional business units have changed a lot in the last year. I really can't imagine where our energy will be best spent a year from now, much less 30 years from now. Maybe that's an isolated example just because of the vertical or industry that we're in.
The great thing about a 200-year business plan is, though?
What's that?
The great thing about it is that you can say whatever you want and there's going to be no accountability because you'll be dead.
You'll be dead.
So you can just make stuff up and sound really awesome.
Yeah. Maybe they're going to sell intergalactically in another century.
Why not? It's 200 years away.
Seems like a new channel to me. Cool. Yeah, I think I'd like to go deep into one part, and I don't think it really matters, but just try to elucidate more about how the drill down of the BTO works. So let's talk about rocks, and I'll share a personal story. My previous company was another IT company and also ran on EOS. And there was a very different or differing philosophy on rocks from that company to Netgame. So at my previous company, I personally had 3 to 5 rocks per quarter. And I owned those rocks, and every member of my team, the growth team, the sales and marketing team, had 5 rocks that they needed to accomplish over the course of the quarter. It seems like here at Netgame, we still have rocks. They are much lower in volume, and I don't know if that's an exercise in prioritization, but in our team, I think that there were 3 or 4 rocks across the entire 10-person team. There was a rock owner for that, but it was really cross-functional. Like for me to accomplish my rock, I needed to talk with everybody else on my team and everybody on a different cross-functional team, the client success team, in order to accomplish this rock. So just a very, very different construction. I don't necessarily know if one is better or worse or right or wrong. It's probably a cultural thing. But yeah, I think if you can kind of talk through what makes a good rock, and if there really is a best practice in quantity, ownership, etc.
Yeah. Ooh, there's a lot of ways I could go with this. What I'll say, so the first thing that's coming to my mind is a couple of years ago, I read somewhere that the word priority didn't have a plural until like 100 years ago. So embedded in the word priority, which is what a rock is, it's a 90-day business priority. We set multiple of them, but the meaning of the word priority literally meant one thing 100 years ago. And now we're like priorities. And here's the 37 priorities this quarter. Wait a second. And so I think there's a lot of value to having a less is more approach. And I think one cool thing about this journey toward mastery of running on EOS is we're always learning more. And I've had clients that have been with me 3, 4, 5 years, still doing their quarterlies and their annuals. And every quarter they still come back with lessons that they're learning about rock setting. And I feel like I'm kind of wandering a little bit, but it's important. I'm going to come back to your specific question.
That's great.
But one thing I've learned about rock setting, and with a lot of EOS tools in general, is that it's such a journey inward. Like you become a more self-aware person by just going through the rock setting process and having to analyze how you did quarter to quarter and calculating your completion ratio, because you start learning about your bandwidth. You start learning about how to word things in a way that's clearer for you and for the team. You just start learning so much about your own energy. and what you like and what you don't like. Ooh, and I set that rock because I felt guilty and I didn't speak up about it, right? All these like internal psychological things that are happening to you just by going through a rock setting process quarter after quarter. And so it's amazing just the discoveries that my teams and my team members have going through this. But to answer your question, 3 to 7 is the rule of thumb. 3 to 7 for the leadership team company rocks, and then 3 to 7 for each leadership team member on average. When you get down into the departments and people like engineers and help desk, things like that, who are really just executing a tactical role day to day, if they have rocks at all, many times it's one, maybe two. And really, like, I do not recommend more than a couple of rocks. And even then, they're typically more tactically minded than strategic. And so the nature and the context of the rock itself is different. But as long as it still represents the most important thing for that person that quarter, then it's a rock. It doesn't really matter. So the number of them, as long as it's kind of in that 1 to 7 range, doesn't really matter as much as, are we having a less is more approach? Are we allowing for margin in our lives to still tackle all the unknown things? And are we signing up for the right things that are truly the priorities that we're going to commit to and allow the team to hold us accountable to? And so those are just some of the main bullets there of how to set rocks well. Obviously, like the articulation of the rock, are we writing it smart? Is it specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, time-bound? Again, like almost every quarter, my teams are like, yeah, we probably should have written that one a little bit smarter. That was unclear. They get to the end of the quarter and they're like, was that done? Was that not done? I don't know. What do you think? And I'm like, we probably could have worded that better. So yeah, I don't know if that's kind of what you're looking for.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great answer. I want to go on a tangent now because you really got me thinking, and maybe this is a too personal question, but you're talking about all of this personal growth and realization and actualization as you get more comfortable with this. Has goal setting, has that entered your personal life as an implementer for multiple years? Do you have John Fox personal rocks? I'm just curious.
So personal or for running my EOS practice, or both?
We can do both.
So 100%. So my EOS practice, small, it's me and one other person who is administrative support for me. And we run the practice on EOS, and you don't need 10 people to run on EOS. It just doesn't make sense typically to work with an implementer until you get to 10 people. But we set annual goals and quarterly rocks, and we do our meeting pulse each week. We solve issues. We do all this. We have a scorecard, like all the same tools that I'm helping my clients implement, I use for myself as well. And so it really helps to keep me focused. So in terms of like on the personal side, so full transparency, going through some marital stuff right now. So things look a little bit different than they used to, but for years, my wife and I, we ran our family a little bit on EOS, kind of a very mild version where we did quarterly and annual planning as well. And we would set rocks, typically like the 1 or 2 things that we wanted to achieve as a family or to focus on. But many times it's like, well, we need to plan this vacation, or we want to hire a house cleaner, or we want to do some different things that we've been intending to do for a long time, or we had on our issues list. And it's like, now's the right time to do it. Here's what we're going to get done. You're going to own it, and blah, blah, blah. So it's again, a very, very mild version, but the principle still applies. Like, is it a 90-day point of focus that's going to help move the needle in our family life? And so
I only ask because I know that I'm doing it at home. And
great.
I'm not using EOS lingo. They're not rocks. We don't have a family BTO or anything like that. But it has kind of pervaded or invaded my personal organization, which I think probably has been pretty productive for me because I'm a little all over the place at times. So that's neat. Yeah. So I want to go a little bit bigger. So the world is changing a lot. We've got, I know you're not in the tech world explicitly, but we're thinking through AI and automation and workflows and all of these things that are really impacting the way that we do business, and I think are impacting the way that decisions are made at companies. Open ended. Have you thought about the impact of AI and automation on EOS and meetings and goal setting and information gathering and decision making? That's a big question.
It's a big question, and it's actually a pretty big topic right now in the EOS implementer community. It's like there are two extremes with this conversation right now. One extreme is get rid of technology in the session room. It's about human to human connectivity, and like we're losing more and more of the human to human interaction because of how technology is evolving. And the other extreme is use AI for everything that it can possibly do in order to streamline, to help, to clarify, to note take, to suggest goals, to capture certain whatever it is, like all the different things that it can do. Like, why wouldn't you use it? And so it's kind of all over the place. I mean, there are literally, there's a service out there, maybe multiple of them, that's like literally meant to take the place of an EOS implementer. Like you put the device in the center of the room of your leadership team, and it understands EOS content and the books and all that kind of stuff, and it like walks the team through everything to facilitate their sessions and to answer their questions and all the different things. And so it's a pretty crazy world out there. I would say I'm a little bit of a slower adopter when it comes to things like AI. I'm coming around a little bit more and more to it, but I feel like the human to human is still going to become more and more important in the midst of this technological age. But I think that AI is huge, and I had a client recently hire an AI consultant to come and figure out how to streamline a bunch of stuff in their large organization, and this guy's coming up with some crazy stuff that's saving a lot of people a lot of time. So I think there's a ton of value in it. I think just a lot of people still don't know how to use it. Yeah. Sorry, that was an open-ended question, and that was
great. That was great.
All over the place. And I feel like I'm not an expert on AI at all, and so I just know very little about it.
Well, I think we're all learning at our own pace, and I'm always curious to hear the stories from people who are maybe a little bit more insulated from it. And I think in a consulting role, unless you're an AI consultant, yeah, a lot of this is going to feel pretty new. I have one follow-up question. This camp that is all about human to human meeting and keeping it real and tech free. Are we talking like no Teams, no Zoom? Are they really trying to foster face to face for all of their the EOS? I don't know why it's called. I really don't know why it's called L10, but meetings that we have within these business groups, they want those in person, not virtual.
I mean, most of my teams, if it depends on where people are located, and so for many of them, virtual is the only option,
right?
Or hybrid. But typically for the ones who are all in the similar, all have an office in the same area, like most of them want to do it in person. And I think that in a world where Zoom and virtual has become prominent, I think people crave just being in the same room with another human. And so they want to do it in person.
I love going to the office. We have a hybrid environment. I'm there 2 days a week, and I'm really excited to be able to be around.
And by the way, it stands for the L10 is the level 10.
Level 10.
Yeah, and that stems from, in case you're interested,
I am.
When I do a 90-minute meeting with a prospect, one of the questions that I ask them is to rate the effectiveness of their internal meetings on a scale of 1 to 10. And I usually get anywhere from like a 1 out of 10 to a 7. And so when I teach them that meeting pulse, I say, this is designed to get your level 4 out of 10 that you've been experiencing up to a level 10 out of 10. So everyone walks out of the meeting feeling like that was a productive, amazing use of your time. And so that's where it comes from, is a level 10 weekly meeting.
Level 10. So you've got a goal right in the title. I like that.
Yeah.
All right, man, John, this has gone super fast, and I think this has been really fascinating. I have one closing question. Anybody who's listening today, if there's one practical action that they can take, other than calling John Fox and starting your own EOS journey to improve either improve their business or their leadership effectiveness, one takeaway, where would you start?
And who is this for again?
Any business leader, any entrepreneur. And we'll keep it confined to your 10 to 250 seat pool.
Yeah. I would say to really, really, really make sure that your vision is clear. And so in my experience, so many issues immediately get resolved by having a clear vision. And most people think their vision is clear already, and it's not. That there was a study done by Harvard years and years ago where they took 100 students and they paired them up in pairs of 2. And they had 10 songs, and one person would try to thump the melody of 10 songs. So, row, row, row your boat would be, right? And so the other person would try to guess what the melody was in that person's head as they're thumping it. And the success rate of guessing it was like 10%. And what I've learned is that many times entrepreneurs, visionaries, they're walking around with the melody in their head. The vision is crystal clear to them, but they're walking around assuming that everyone else gets it. And they don't. They don't get it. They don't understand it. So really making sure that your vision is clear and that you're communicating that vision, that's written down, that the leadership team understands it, agrees with it. So many things get resolved instantly as soon as your vision's clear and communicated. So that's what I would say. There's obviously a ton of things I could say, but that's a big one.
That's a great one. Awesome. John, thank you so much. This was a lot of fun. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah. Thanks, Zach.
And thank you all for listening. See you next time.